3,600 years ago, an island in the Aegean Sea exploded with 4 times the force of Krakatoa. Its center collapsed into the ocean in a single day and night. The legend calls it Atlantis. The evidence calls it something else. This is the first of the Ember Tales, where we hold the world's oldest legends up to the light of real evidence. And few legends burn brighter than Atlantis. The story begins more than 2,000 years ago in ancient Athens, with a philosopher named Plato, one of the most famous thinkers who ever lived. He wrote about justice, war, and the perfect state, and his words are still studied in every corner of the world. In 2 of his writings, Plato described a vast island empire that had existed 9,000 years before his time. He called it Atlantis. He placed it beyond the Pillars of Heracles, the great rocks that guard what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar, out in the unknown ocean. Atlantis, he wrote, was larger than Libya and Asia put together, a power that ruled over many lands and peoples. Its capital was a marvel, rings of land and sea, one inside another, joined by bridges and canals, with walls of precious metal and temples of silver and gold. At its heart stood a temple to Poseidon, god of the sea, home to a golden statue so tall its head nearly touched the ceiling. Its navy ruled the waves. Its armies marched against Europe and Africa. Atlantis was the greatest power the world had ever seen. The people of Atlantis grew proud and greedy, and the gods decided to punish them. And so Plato wrote, in a single day and night of misfortune, the island of Atlantis was swallowed by the sea and vanished from the world. It is one of the most powerful stories ever told. And for more than 2,000 years, people have refused to believe it was only a story. In the 1800s, one best-selling book convinced countless readers that Atlantis had truly existed, and the hunt has never stopped since. Atlantis has been hunted in the Atlantic and the Pacific, in Sweden, in Spain, in the Caribbean, even under the ice of Antarctica. Thousands of books have been written, expeditions have sailed, fortunes have been spent. Nothing has ever been found, because they may all have been looking in the wrong place and in the wrong century. To find the truth behind the legend, you do not sail beyond Gibraltar. You sail to the Aegean Sea, to a small Greek island called Santorini. Today, Santorini is a crescent of white villages perched on towering cliffs, but the shape of the island is a scar. 3,600 years ago, Santorini blew itself apart. Millions of tourists stand on those cliffs every year, and few realize they are on the rim of a drowned volcano. Back then, the island was called Thera, and it belonged to one of the most advanced civilizations on Earth, the Minoans. While most of the world still lived in simple huts, the Minoans built cities. Their buildings rose 3 stories high. Their walls were covered in beautiful paintings of dolphins, ships, and festivals. They had paved streets, sewers, and even pipes carrying hot and cold running water. More than 1,000 years before the famous aqueducts of Rome, their ships traded across the entire eastern Mediterranean, and their fleet was the strongest of its time. Minoan pottery and treasures have been found in Egypt, in Cyprus, and all along the coasts of the ancient world. A rich island empire, a master of the seas, advanced far beyond its neighbors, at the very height of its power. Sound familiar? Around the year 1600 BC, the volcano at the heart of Thera woke up. It began with earthquakes, then falling ash. The people of Thera understood the warnings, gathered what they could carry, and fled their island. And then came one of the most violent eruptions of the last 10,000 years. The blast hurled ash and stone miles into the sky. It was heard hundreds of miles away. Day turned to night across the Aegean. Scientists estimate it was several times more powerful than Krakatoa. Then the center of the island collapsed into the emptied chamber below, and the sea rushed in to fill the wound. In a matter of hours, the heart of Thera was gone. Where mountains had stood, there was only deep water, a vast drowned crater plunging more than 1,000 feet down, an island swallowed by the sea in a single day and night. And the catastrophe did not stop there. The collapse sent tsunamis racing across the sea toward Crete, the home island of the Minoans. Waves as tall as buildings smashed the Minoan harbors and drowned their fleets. The empire of the sea lost its ships in one morning. Traces of those giant waves have been found on coastlines far from the volcano. The Minoans never truly recovered. Within a few generations, the greatest civilization of its age had crumbled away, its last palaces taken by invaders from the Greek mainland. And here the story might have ended, except that in 1967, archaeologists began to dig on Santorini. The man leading them had spent almost 30 years arguing that the eruption of Thera had destroyed the Minoan world. Beneath layer after layer of hardened volcanic ash, they found an entire city, perfectly preserved. They named it Akrotiri. Houses still stood 3 stories tall. Stairs still climbed to upper floors. Great jars still waited in the storerooms, and paintings still glowed on the walls. It was a moment frozen in time, like Pompeii, but with one haunting difference. There were no bodies. Not one. The people of Akrotiri had heeded the volcano's warnings and escaped before the end. Almost no gold or jewelry was left behind. They had time to pack and time to sail away, where those thousands of people sailed, and whether the sea let them live, no one knows. So how does a real Greek island that sank around 1600 BC become Plato's Atlantis, 9,000 years old and an ocean away? The trail may run through Egypt. Plato said the story came from his kinsman Solon, who heard it from the priests there. Egypt knew the Minoans well. They traded for generations, and Egyptian records remember a time of strange darkness, when a great storm wrecked temples and tombs. Some scholars suspect the numbers changed along the way. The records may have meant 900 years before Solon. The story became 9,900 years before Solon. That lands remarkably close to the destruction of Thera, and the echoes run deeper still. Plato wrote that the kings of Atlantis hunted bulls in the temple of their god. On Crete, the bull was sacred, and Minoan athletes famously vaulted over charging bulls with their bare hands. Plato even described springs of hot and cold water flowing through Atlantis. The people of Akrotiri piped hot and cold water straight into their homes. An island empire, a master of the seas, rich, proud, and advanced beyond its neighbors, punished by the gods and swallowed by the sea in a single day and night. Everything the legend remembers, the Aegean once lived through. It must be said plainly, many historians believe Plato simply invented Atlantis as a warning about pride and power, and that even the tale of Solon was part of the story. If he did borrow from a real memory, then somewhere beneath that quiet blue bay lies the truth behind the most famous legend ever told. So what do you believe? Was Atlantis only a philosopher's fable, or the last echo of a real island that died in fire? And if it was real, where do you think it truly lies? Tell us your theory in the comments below.